break them in 1 second.
Like speed up.
Yeah. I mean, you just touch it.
Huh?
All you got to do is touch it. I mean, strings are like this high. It's ridiculous. Does he? I didn't know.
Everybody settled in? Okay. Now I think, let's resume with questions. I see one here. Why don't you go?
I got a couple of few bands I work with out in New York City. I play in a couple myself. I play with the Gil Evans Orchestra once in a while. And I have my band called, Word of Mouth, with various members, whoever's in town, that I also use, in the New York area. And I have a steel drum band that I play with out of Florida. I got something, we've already recorded. I'm trying to get that, some label to pick that up. So that's about, and basically, some new music all the time, some rhythm and blues, basically.
Who were your influences when you were starting first playing? Did you have any particular ones, or
just the radio, anything on the radio, any form of music at all. Just whatever you turn on the radio. That was it. I like mainly rhythm and blues. That's my forte. Like funk and all that. Sam and Dave, that era. That was my big influence. And any pop music too. Anything that was on pop radio.
What do you think that you practiced that helped you keep the great facility on the bass, that you thought really helped you develop that?
Mainly cello studies. I studied lots of cello stuff because it's very difficult because it's tuned in fifths. I mean, they go like this, where we just, going across and forth, and super melodic and excellent for your chops. It just keeps you busy. Bass books for me were a little. There was not that much in it. Some Mandel book. That was it. That was the only bass book out. So I just went and found anything I could. Get a violin book or listen to piano players. I was mainly listening to other things. But yeah, this is still feeding back. Yeah, I like the way Jerry played. He played on a lot of the Muscle Shoals stuff and a lot of the Atlantic stuff. He was a big influence on me. That's basically where I'm from. With the bass. That R&B thing. I mainly got them out of books. Just go out and get Dot. I remember Dot's Hour was like the main guy. Dot's Hour, 113 cello studies. They're pretty amazing. Just basically finding most stuff like that. Violin studies are good too. Get the old Bach stuff, all that. The how you say, the inventions, all those things. They're good for the hands. Definitely.
Do you ever see the possibility of playing with a recording again?
Well, Joe and Wayne, I think, just broke up now. So I don't know what they're up to. They're for the first time in since 1970, 71, they're doing their own things. I really haven't left Weather Report, I'm just not with the band right now, because that's that sort of a band, lots of things happen in people's lives, We never broke up. I just had to do other things. They had other things to do, family things. There's lots of stuff that happened. So right now, Weather Report is totally on hold. So I don't know what'll happen next with that. But I would definitely play with them again. I probably will play with them again. We'll probably get together sometime. But I know Joe and Wayne just broke up. So in fact, Wayne's going out on tour in a couple of days. Just talk to him.
You said you had all those projects going in New York. Do you like the playing atmosphere there better, or do you just like New York better?
Well, the good thing about New York is it's concentrated. You can fall out your front door, man, and do everything in the world within 10 minutes. So, so you don't need nothing, and you can walk everywhere. You can walk to 300 clubs and see everybody in the world in 15 minutes. So, that's good about New York. I mean, there's a lot it's, you know, you can't complain about really, I mean, you can complain about being out of work. Work's cutthroat, you know, it's very cutthroat in New York. But most all the players are there, you know. I mean, if you ain't got nothing to do, you can walk down the street and you see somebody, or you know. I mean, you can't walk 10 blocks without seeing at least 300 guys you know. That's what I like about New York. Cutthroat about it is, you know, it's rough. It's just, you got to be ready for it. California's a lot, what? Well, LA's spread out. You got to have a car out here. In New York, you don't need a car. You just walk. I mean, you walk everywhere in a couple of minutes. You know, it's a lot easier. A little bit, not much. I don't do that. However you call it. I mean, a little bit. I don't do it very good.
Do you just do these major projects, or do you get calls to do like Chrysler commercials and that kind of stuff in music?
I don't do that. There are a line of guys in New York that do all that stuff. You know, they've had it sewn up for years, and they make all sorts of big money, and they don't let anybody get into it because they don't want to lose their gig, because they're good gigs. You know, it's tough to get in those things. You know, it's a big click. I mean, I'll do anything that comes along. Basically, I like to come up with new stuff. You know, like innovative stuff that nobody's got. You know, it's this dangerous stuff. You know, and everybody's afraid to try. That's what I do. I'm a scout. Do I? Yeah, you know, within a musical taste, you know. I don't like to overdo it, but they're there. You know, I use them. I haven't played that in years. That's tough. I could try it, but it is. I know I've not played it. No, that's basically it, I think. That's what they put. Oh, this is cool. That's what it was. I've played this in like 10 years. Yeah. I haven't played that literally since I put that on a record. As a miracle, I remember that.
How did you go about becoming aware of where all the harmonics were? Like, you charted it out yourself, or did you find some book that told you about it?
It's all there. Just tuning up. You know, I was just tuning up the bass one day. You know, I was just tuning it up, and I just heard it. It sounded, you know, musical to me. So then, you know. There, so I just, you know, figured out what they were note-wise, went across all the strings. You can just about play a legit chromatic scale with just with these 4 strings. You know, it's tough. I forget it. I figured it out once. Almost. I think you're missing one note. So that they're all in there. It's just a matter of the main thing to make that stuff musical. I mean, you always hear everybody on records hit these little chords, which anybody can do. That's corny. You know, I mean, anybody can do that. The thing is to figure out where all the notes are and what they are, and then use them, you know, like combine them into little chords. You know, there's not all that much you can do because it's open. You can do like, you know, fake ones, you know, like that. What I do with my thumb, guitar players do it with their fingers. You can do that, or the thing with the open harmonics, there's only so many of them, is just to know them. You know, and then the other thing is like you use this like a capo. And, you know, then pick them in halves. So, you know, it's very basic. The main thing is just learning what all the notes are, so that you can use them. I mean, there's only so many notes up there, but when you know where they're at, it's you know, it's very effective to throw them in. E flat, I know that.
Drum mic.
Interesting sound. Who? I can't hear you. I just heard him a little bit yesterday or the day before. He sounded pretty good. Oh, nice. Yeah. Jeff sounded real good.
You know, it's funny because I never happened to across a Weather Report concert just due to whatever. Never saw Jaco live except on the records. So the other day when we first met, he said that I had never seen you play, and I said, you know, I hadn't seen you play. And it was just an interesting thing to, for the first time, seeing somebody, you know, who you know of for so long. And I think it's like really good for everybody here just to see what a musician like this can do and what he has to say outside of the studio, because, you know, a studio thing is obviously prepared to showcase the very best for everyone to listen to. And there's a lot of facets and a lot of sides to a player. So I think it's really good that you can check out all the facets other than just the preparedness of a musician. You know what I'm saying? That a lot of musicians are deeper than merely the tune on an album. So maybe your questions can be directed to that in terms of writing. I mean, the guy writes full orchestral stuff. I think that there's a lot of real pertinent information if you want to pursue that.
Yeah.
Do you basically write everything you do, or sometimes you go in on the studio and you have a song and you just basically say jam it in a sense?
It's basically written, more or less. I mean, there's stuff. I remember the Weather Report we had. Sometimes we'd have the most amazing music, and it would sound totally as if we'd even comment to ourselves. Let's say this stuff was written note for note, and this stuff would sound the freest. And then we would play some free shit, and it would be, you know, and it would sound real technical because we were so tight. So it's, but we always have some sort of a format, definitely, you know, always. And as far as like approaching something, it depends on in the studio how much time you have to deal with. You know, if you have some time up front, you come up with some, you know, some newer things. I like to look at stuff before I have to go in and play it personally, just so I'm ready for it. You know, just so you don't walk in and fumble around, you know, and make a fool of yourself. I like to know basically what's going on first. But then I don't like to overdo it, so it's still fresh. You know, I don't want to go in and sound practiced, ever. Just hit it. But definitely we have, it's just usually planned out, you know.
On a solo like Used to Be a Cha-Cha, how much time did you spend on that before going into the studio? How spontaneous was that solo?
It was pretty spontaneous, but I remember that first album, those solos are pretty ridiculous. I practiced a lot of different things to throw in there, definitely. Because, I mean, it was my debut, and I came out, you know, I was like 23 years old, and I just said, you know, I got to come out with something powerful. And so I was practicing that stuff, because that stuff is hard. They were all one takes, you know, everything, so, you know, I was pretty nervous. But I had practiced a lot of stuff. I had a lot of planned things for all those tunes, you know, what I was going to play. I mean, that stuff is too good. You can't just make all that stuff.
I was going to say, Jesus.
You know, I mean, I'll admit that myself.
Depend on tape.
On your album, Word of Mouth, is that all written out too? All that obscure stuff that you did on that?
What parts?
The whole album was like really way out.
Well, there's two tunes on side one. Are total. The one tune is to the L.A. Symphony. You know, that can't be too obscure. I mean, it's a ballad. You know, that's not obscure. And then tune after that, Liberty City, is all. You know, most everything except for the first tune is written out.
And what was that written about, Liberty City?
Liberty City, Florida, Miami,
Okay.
Florida, when they did the Liberty City, when they had the Liberty City riots. That's where I grew up. That's where I wrote that stuff. Yeah, in fact, it was funny because I named it Liberty City, and I didn't really have a name for it. I'd called it High Life or something, because it was sort of like a reggae. And I finally said, wait, I'm going to call it Liberty City. And I woke up the next day, and it was the Liberty City riots. It was strange. They had not had the Liberty City riots, which of course were the biggest racial riots of the 70s, I guess. So it was strange when I saw that.
You play mostly with 2 fingers or 3?
2. I use these fingers. I use to like to mute my thumb, and these fingers I use like to when you're playing, so as not to make so much noise. Which is actually harder than playing. Really, that's the hardest stuff. Really going is to not make noise with the other strings. Excuse me? I never have. I use my thumb quite a bit. Just like stopping and picking, like quick.
And using your last 2 fingers for deadening strings, how did you go about working on that? I've been trying to build that up and can't.
I'll tell you, it's tough. It's very tough because, in fact, when people ask me about right-hand technique, I really don't consider I even have any. And I know it's tougher than the left hand. I just don't think about it. I mean, that's a really rotten answer, I know, but I just don't think about it. You just have to, it's totally by feel. If you're playing, you'll have to think, you're making a lot of noise, so try to get your hand over there. That's about the best I can explain it. Get over there, and then you have the problem of not, muting the notes that you're playing, So it's a little tough. I seen some guy the other day was just playing all over the place, which was very impressive. Like he had his arm muting the thing. I couldn't believe it. It's tough though. Mainly what you do is just let them fall really light, just like barely touching the instrument.
Do you rest your thumb on the string, or does your thumb just stay?
I rest it on the E string and the pickup. That's where I rest my thumb.
Do you always play with a light touch, even if the sound is kind of real forceful?
I play usually with a real hard touch, all the time.
Yeah, 'cause that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I play with a hard touch, and when I'm playing the fretless for the tone, I'm usually playing pretty hard too, to get it to dig into the neck, to get that growl. But I usually pick pretty hard.
Do you break strings much, or do you pretty much know how hard you can hit it without doing it?
I never break strings. I broke a string when I was a kid, went in my left eye and tore it off, so I made a habit not of breaking strings after that. And I play very hard. I throw my bass around, break it, I do all sorts of stuff. I don't break strings.
How do you change your strings?
Well, when I'm working real hard, I try to change them every night. When you can afford it,
Yeah, can you talk about your role in Joni Mitchell's Mingus, like what was asked of you, or if you were given more of a free hand?
I came in on that day. In fact, we did it right down the street over at A&M. And I called up Herbie to do it, because she had some English piano player who really couldn't play. He'd transcribed the music, so I got Herbie Hancock to come down. And I was more or less sort of a co-leader. I did some arranging on it and stuff. And like I said, this guy had this guy from England had transcribed all these Mingus tunes, which she had wanted to do. She wrote words to like the saxophone melodies or whatever. And And we went at it like that. I mean, we had to play the tunes, but she you know, which was strange because I'm playing like Fender bass. I'm playing bass guitar for an upright eulogy album, more or less, you know. And we had electric piano and stuff. It was hip. I liked the way it was done, you know. I didn't want that old sound personally, so I know I had a lot to do with that. You know, getting electric piano on it and stuff. You know, it came out very good. But that, you know, we had to play the music. The music was down. We, you know, getting Wayne and, you know, then we call up Wayne and Herbie. We just took it out, you know, playing Peter. I think Erskine was on drums, so, you know, it was fun. But it was straight ahead. You know, they knew what they wanted. There wasn't all that much freedom outside of just when they asked you to play something. You know, they just tell you.
What about Peter from Des Moines? Were you credited with the horn arrangements?
Yeah, I wrote all that. I wrote that in about 5 minutes. Just coming into the session.
Can we see some of that? Can you write for that? Can you play some of that?
I'll tell you, I don't remember.
Just some of those were
Right. It's just one of my traditional riffs. I've played with him a few times. I've never done any record breaks with him. Probably because he lives on the West Coast. I live on the East Coast. Sort of hard to get in contact. I've sat in with him several times. Good friend of mine. But we've worked concerts together. You know, on the same venue where I was on. In fact, I did a solo bass concert in Berlin once, and him and Gary Burton. We were on the same bill, but never worked with him. Like to. Good player. Stanley's great. Good friend of mine. We just did a duet album. Be out about a year or so. We don't really have a label for it. Yes?
When you're improvising, did you rely on patterns or do you have riffs, like you have a work with you? What's going through your mind when you're just improvising?
Usually just form and melody is basically it. The dynamics. I like to play dynamically, which I feel lots of people don't do. You know, which is an aspect of music I think people don't really use too much. You know, like, you know.
Well, do you pretty much play what you're hearing in your head?
Yeah. Well, it like something will just start happening, like a flow. You know, you got to know patterns. Your hands got to know certain patterns. You know certain things, certain licks. Like you said, a lick book. I don't know about that. On stage, just pull it out. You know.
How are your kids doing?
They're okay. They're all in Florida. I try to mainly, concentrate on melody and form. Keep the form. By all means, you can't, unless you're just free, you just go forever. God, But melody, I'm always, no matter whatever I'm playing, I always have the melody going in my head. And probably Joe would probably agree on that. Always have the melody going. I mean, I could be playing the most outside stuff, not even playing the right changes, but I'm still thinking the melody. And that's the basic thing, right, Joe?
Only the melodies right now.
That's it. Melody is the whole thing. So you stay on that, keep that in your mind. I mean, you could be singing that to yourself while you're playing this other stuff. That's basically what I do. And if you listen to the stuff I've recorded, it stands pretty true. I usually keep to it because you'll always hear, you know, I'll jump in and I'll quote the melody, whatever, you know, play it upside down, whatever you do to keep that going. That's the main thing. Of course, in the melody is the form, I mean, basically. You know, form being, you know, chords and stuff, then you know, jump off.
For someone as famous like you are there still some musician left you wish to play with or even dream to play with?
Several musicians I've already played with, you know, and play again, just like asking if I would play with Weather Report again. I'd love to get back with John Wayne someday. But, you know, I haven't played with Miles. Still have never been half all the guys in all my bands Miles is using now. I still have never played with Miles ever. And I'd like to play with Miles. You know, get back together, play with Joe. You know, I haven't played with Joe in 10 years.
Here's your chance.
Here's your chance.
I enjoy playing with good players, you know. Like my father said once, he says, Jaco, you surround yourself with great musicians. And that's what I like to do. I don't like to play by myself at all. It's boring.
Do you have any recordings of your personal favorites?
What do you mean by that?
Well, is there anything that you like more than others that you recorded?
You mean that I've recorded?
Mitchell, Weather Report, anything that stands out in your mind that you're more proud of?
Not really. It's like I got 4 kids, none of them are my favorite, okay?
Did you play Donna Lee right now?
That would be tough. I haven't played in a long time. I might try it a little later. You know, that's a hard one. It's hard. I can play it slow, maybe. I mean, that first line is impossible in the band. This is the hardest stuff in the world because when I first learned it, I'm showing it to you slow because it's harder to play slow than fast. You know, once you get it in the pattern, I mean, I got to think playing it slow. I'm actually putting myself on the spot. It's a tough tune. We used to do it, you know, with Ira, we used to play it so fast you couldn't even hear it. I mean, and we would hit every note too. You know, but it's easy. The pattern is easy. It's harder. Like I never practice things fast, ever. I mean, everything I practice slow. You know, I just wait till I get on the bandstand, like to start hitting. You know, but it's tougher, man, to concentrate. It's better too. It's tougher and it's better to practice slow and think of all the notes. It's because it's tough to get all that information in your head. I mean, you know, because you can just play Donna Lee, for instance, is basically, it sounds like a solo. It could be a solo Charlie Parker played on Back Home in Indiana. Who knows? But it's bad. So when you stop and think about it, then it gives you some real insight into really playing on the stuff.
We had a seminar with Howard Roberts, and we talked a lot about using a mental image in practicing. Do you ever use that? Like driving down the road, thinking about a tune and how you play it?
You mean like when you're not with your instrument or something? That's where I do most of my practicing. I very rarely practice. You know, like right now I'm practicing right now. I mean, I shouldn't be saying that to y'all. I mean, you should practice. But I mean, I work so much. You know, like right now I've sort of been taking some time off. But when I'm working, I work so much I really don't need to physically practice. I do virtually all my practicing just in my head. And I do it usually when I'm traveling, like you said, in a car, or people always think I'm spaced out, you know, that I'm going out on them. But I'm just be like, you know, exactly what you're talking about. I do practice without an instrument. I do it a lot, like just before I go to bed, I'll just be laying down. Before I fall asleep, I'll just be laying down and think. And you can think real well. I mean, I can actually practice, and physically it feels as if my hands are practicing, and I'm not. I'm just sitting there thinking. In fact, I was just doing that yesterday. I mean, you can feel your fingers actually doing it. I don't know if it makes any sense, but it does happen.
you ever have dreams about music?
When I did this album, Word of Mouth, I worked on it so hard that the music started like haunting me. I mean, I would go to sleep. I had this tune, Crisis, which is so out. And it's just like loony bin music. And I would go to bed and that stuff it would not leave me. So, but no, I don't usually dream about music now. I might dream about being on the road or something, you know, having some fun with the guys. But I don't dream about music. No.
You've played with a lot of great drummers. What are some of the things that make you enjoy playing with one drummer over another drummer?
Time. What else? That's the only thing. Guy's got good time. That's a basic. That's the only thing there is in music, man. Is time. If guy's got bad time, forget it.
No, but I mean, like among the great drummers, like all the great drummers got really good time. Why would you have a better time playing with one?
All the great drummers don't have great time. I'm telling you, man. Time is it. Once they got time, it's just a matter of preference of, dynamics is next for me. Time, dynamics, and then form. How they treat tunes, knowing what they're doing with the tune. There's a million different ways to approach a tune from a drum standpoint, and then melodically playing. Melodically, I would say comes last for a drummer. I mean, he's got to be aware of the melody, but I mean melody within the sound of the instrument. But, well, and the melodic content of the sound, even that basic of sound. But basically, time is it. And if you ain't got time, forget it. You should quit playing drums, get another gig. That's all there is. And time is very important.
So who would you say your favorite drummer is?
I don't have any favorites. I told you that earlier, but there's a bunch of them. Elvin Jones, Max Roach, Tony. Tony Williams, Jarnet. There's a bunch of them out there. They're all great.
You said you grew up, playing pop music and started listening to that. Do you do that at all today? Listen today, pop music?
That's the only music I ever really hear. Just whatever I hear on the street, walking down the street. There'll be stores open, radios on. I don't even have a record player anymore. I just listen to whatever I hear. I like the commercial stuff that's going on. It's nice, just as long as it's got a beat.
Do you think you'll ever record like a commercial tune or say something like a Michael Jackson sort of thing?
I've played on several of them. You just don't know that I'm on them. But I have several things. I mean, my first album I had a tune, "Come On, Come Over" with Sam and Dave, and that was very commercial. They were supposed to do something with it, and they never did. So that's what I want to do now. Like basically have an R&B band. That's my favorite type of music. That they keep calling me jazz player. Well, I mean, I can play jazz, but I consider myself a musician. I don't really consider myself a jazz player. And it gets you in a lot of trouble being, work-wise, because of, jazz people that we don't have the best reputation. They just say he's a jazz player, and then you don't get gigs playing rock gigs and funk gigs, which is my major thing. I play rock and roll better than I play jazz, but you just don't get in it because you're a jazz player, and then they think you're going to come and play Donna Lee for the first tune.
Anybody's hiring, QB.
Yeah, exactly. I'm self-taught, formally self-taught. It was tough because I played, in fact, my reading isn't all that good right now. I mean, I'd have to practice 2 or 3 days and it would be right back up to par. I just haven't read in a couple of years. But,
We got some guitar player, Joni, I want you to play.
Well, we could do that too.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian. When you're writing music, do you write a melody first, or do you have a groove in mind and you put melody to that, or how do you go about writing?
That's a tough question because music just, it comes out of you. Usually what I do, melody is usually the main thing. Groove is always the toughest to find a good rhythm for something. It's always tough. Melody usually is what comes out first, then form, and then you got to come up with some sort of a groove. What I used to do, I used to write like every day. I used to write a tune. I mean, really write a tune. I mean, this is something, like for a year you got 365 tunes. You know, just sit down and make yourself write something that you think you haven't heard before. And but of course, you know, my concentration level, I did that for about a week. But I kept that sort of attitude, and I came up with writing like really incredible amounts of stuff, lots of music. And what I finally started doing was I'd come up with some new music, and then go to sleep on it. Don't write it down. And then if I remembered it the next day, then I would write it down. And that's when I knew I had something good. That's about it. That was like where I cut it.
Do you remember like a real nightmare gig that you played where everything fell apart or was pretty critical?
Several. you usually bail them out somehow. I've had some bad gigs. Not too many, fortunately. But you know, there's lots of times where, you know, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. There'll be weather against you, especially with outdoor concerts are tough. That's times when lots of things can go wrong. So sometimes you be in a funny club, things can go wrong easy. Club owner don't dig you. You know, you go on and fight with the guy before you go on, and something's gonna go wrong. But yeah, I've had a few. So we got way back there.
Yeah, when you played with Ian Hunter a number of years ago, was that like session work, or did you know each other beforehand, or?
No, I just met him. The guy that had set up my first record deal was also working with Ian Hunter. Was his boy, and he thought it would be good, seeing that I was coming out basically as a jazz sort of guy, which they were pushing me as. Come out immediately, and I did a rock and roll album, which was a very good album. They didn't push that either. That was a very good album. Yeah, people talk about that. That's fun, yeah. And that was a good album. I don't know what happened to it. Should have pushed it. Same old thing. But that was just that was management. The guy that had signed me to Epic Records also was managing Ian Hunter. That's how we got together.
How have you done with management? Like, were there times early in your career when you kind of got the shaft from people, or?
I get the shaft today. What are you talking about, man? Shit. Management and music just don't mix. Period. That's the end of that.
Or do you have somebody who takes care of all your?
Well, I've had like one person that worked with me that, you know, he was a roadie of mine, and I just got him to start doing a business for me. You know, I've never had a real manager. You know, with Weather Report we had one. You know, wasn't. You know, of course, we split from them too. I mean, that's a weird thing to get into. Managers are managers. That's what they do. You know, we're playing, and they really don't think about us too much. There's only a couple of really good ones out there.
I just want to know, on your fretless tone, do you get that just from your attack, or do you have your action set really low for that?
No, my action is not that low, as a matter of fact. It's sort of high. Not real high, but high enough to get good tone, you know. My real instruments are over in New York right now, so it's not that easy to really show you all that much, you know. But just medium, you know, average. It's not real low. I can't play with the action real low because I play very hard.
Might get a lot of buzz.
Exactly. Where are these guys at that can play? You got your bass too, right? Yeah. So maybe you want to play some.